One of the newest cardinals in the Catholic Church has died. Cardinal Richard Bawav of Ghana died last evening in Rome. He had recently been released from the hospital because of heart issues. He was elevated to cardinal in August, but missed the consistory because of heart trouble. The Vatican says it is praying for his family and the members of his diocese. Cardinal Bawav was 63 years old. Meantime, the Vatican says China has violated the terms of a provisional agreement over the appointment of bishops. In a statement, the Holy See said it had, quote, surprise and regret about the installation of an auxiliary bishop in a diocese not recognized by the Vatican. The statement also said the appointment came after, quote, prolonged and heavy pressure from local authorities. Joining us now from Rome is Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief. Andreas, great to see you as always. Can you tell us more about what the Vatican is saying?
Yeah, sure. So on Saturday, the Vatican released a statement accusing China of violating its agreement with the Church. The Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association is the branch of the Chinese government controlling the Catholic activities in the country. It seems to have installed a new auxiliary bishop in a diocese not recognized by the Vatican. According to the Secretariat of State's message, this was a clear breach of the provisional agreement between China and the Holy See. Now, last month, this controversial agreement was just renewed for another 2 years. It was the second renewal after its first adoption in 2018. And this document of understanding has been the reason for much controversy. Cardinal Joseph Zen of Hong Kong was one of the most outspoken critics of the Vatican's agreement with China. Recently, Cardinal Tagle, on the other hand, the Filipino pro-prefect of the Dicastery of Evangelization with Chinese roots, defended the agreement as concrete and pragmatic, which helps the Catholic minority in China and secures, as he says, the valid apostolic succession of bishops. The exact wording of the document and the exact points agreed upon in there remain a secret. However, the Secretariat of State made it clear that because of this accord, the Vatican has the last word over the bishops and who is naming them.
And Andreas, it seems China ignored part of this agreement. So what will happen now?
Well, Tracy, as far as we know from the communications from the Holy See, it seems obvious that this agreement has been breached unilaterally. Bishop Chom Beng Hui Chu was installed as an auxiliary bishop in the Diocese of Jiangxi. The problem at hand is not so much that the Vatican would disagree with the ordination of this bishop, but more with the diocese. The Holy See never agreed to this diocese, and the Chinese government still went ahead and created it without the Vatican's consent. In its communication, the Secretariat of State also laments the long and heavy pressure from local authorities that preceded this installation. And at this point, we do not really know how this matter will continue and if it might mark the beginning of the end of the agreement between China and the Vatican. But after all, it's exactly these kinds of bold moves on the part of the Chinese government that critics have always warned of. And on a side note on that, Cardinal Zen had been on trial in China over participating in a fund paying for legal fees and medical treatment for pro-democracy advocates in Hong Kong. Only 1 day after the installation of this bishop, Cardinal Zen was convicted by a Chinese court and had to pay a fine. However, we may understand the immediate reaction of the Holy See as a warning, signaling China that the Church is not willing to accept unilateral breaches of the current provisional agreement, not even smaller ones. We should not forget that Bishop Peng, who was now installed by the government, had been consecrated in 2014 by the underground church in China with the blessing of the Vatican.
And Andreas, on a different note, before I let you go, I understand Pope Francis met a large group of children at the Vatican this morning. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's right, Tracy. Pope Francis met with a group of 6,000 Italian school children and their teachers in a meeting organized by the country's national network of Schools for Peace. In his address, the Holy Father stressed the importance of always striving to build peace. He then said that he wanted to remind his listeners of the examples of two prominent advocates, Pope St. John XXIII and Martin Luther King Jr. The Pope encouraged the children to dream big and also become advocates for peace themselves.
Andreas, thank you so much for that report. We appreciate it. As always, Andreas Thonhauser, EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief. Thank you again.